Emma was a shy girl who lived most of her life tucked away in quiet corners and silent routines. She was 24 years old and worked at a small bookstore where the only sounds were the soft rustle of pages and the faint whispers of customers. She rarely went out to parties and never liked drawing attention to herself. Life for her was peaceful yet lonely. She had a small circle of friends and most evenings she returned to her tiny apartment where she read novels and sipped tea. One late evening Emma felt a sharp pain in her lower abdomen. At first she tried to ignore it thinking it might pass with rest. But as the night grew longer the pain worsened and she found herself curled on the floor. Panic slowly filled her mind. She had always been afraid of hospitals yet she knew she could not handle this alone. Gathering all the courage she had, Emma called a cab and asked to be taken to the emergency room. The hospital lights were harsh and the smell of disinfectant overwhelmed her senses. Her hands shook as she filled out forms at the reception desk. She kept her head down hoping no one noticed how pale and nervous she looked. A nurse guided her into a small examination room where she waited with trembling fingers clutched around her bag. She worried about what the doctor might ask. She worried about how exposed she might feel. And she worried about the judgment of strangers. When the door opened she lifted her eyes slightly and froze. The doctor who entered was tall with sharp features and kind eyes that seemed to carry both authority and gentleness. His white coat was crisp and his voice calm as he introduced himself. "I am Dr. Adrian Blake. Tell me what brings you here tonight." Emma's throat tightened. She struggled to form words. It was an intimate issue, one she never imagined she would have to discuss with a stranger, let alone a man who looked as composed and confident as he did. Her cheeks burned crimson as she explained in fragments what had been troubling her. Adrian listened carefully, never interrupting and never showing the slightest hint of judgment. His tone remained professional yet soothing. He reassured her that emergencies like hers were common and nothing to be ashamed of. For the first time Emma felt a spark of relief. She realized he did not see her as a weak girl but simply as a patient in need of help. As Adrian performed his checks, Emma kept her gaze fixed on the ceiling, trying to steady her racing heart. She felt vulnerable, yet there was something about his presence that softened her fear. He spoke gently about what he was doing, making sure she understood each step. His kindness calmed her, though she could not shake the strange flutter in her chest. When the examination ended, Adrian explained the treatment plan clearly and offered her medication for the pain. He promised she would recover soon and reminded her that seeking help was the strongest thing she could have done. Emma nodded, though her mind lingered more on him than on his words. She did not know that behind his professional demeanor Adrian carried a life far removed from the sterile walls of the hospital. Outside of his medical career he was a man of wealth, a quiet millionaire who had inherited family businesses yet chosen medicine as his true calling. He lived in a world of luxury but rarely spoke of it because he wanted people to see him for his heart, not his fortune. Emma of course had no idea. To her he was simply the doctor who had saved her from a night of unbearable fear. Yet as she prepared to leave she found herself glancing back at him, wondering why her chest felt warm in his presence. Adrian noticed the way she avoided eye contact yet listened intently. He noticed the timidity in her voice and the strength it took for her to walk into the alone. He admired her courage, though she likely did not see it in herself. As she left the room he wished her well and told her to return if she ever needed care again. Emma walked out of the hospital into the cool night air with a strange mixture of relief and confusion. The pain in her body had eased, but her heart now carried a new restlessness. She replayed his words in her mind and the way his eyes had met hers with steady compassion. The next few days Emma tried to return to her normal life at the bookstore, but her thoughts drifted constantly to Dr. Blake. She imagined how it might feel to speak to him without the barrier of hospital walls. She wondered if he ever thought about her at all. She scolded herself for being foolish. He was a doctor and she was just a shy girl who sold books. Their worlds were far apart. Yet life has a way of weaving paths together when least expected. One late afternoon as Emma arranged new titles on a shelf she heard the door chime and looked up. Her breath caught when she saw Adrian stepping inside the store. He wore no white coat, only a simple sweater and jeans. He looked more approachable than she had imagined. He recognized her instantly and gave a small smile. "Hello, Emma. I was nearby and noticed the store. I thought I would stop by to see how you were doing." Emma's heart nearly leapt out of her chest. She managed a nervous nod and whispered that she was much better thanks to him. Her voice shook, but he did not seem to mind. He browsed through the shelves asking her about books she liked and listening with genuine interest. For the first time Emma found herself speaking more freely. His warmth drew her out of her shell and soon she was laughing softly at his dry humor. In that moment she realized something had shifted. He was no longer just the doctor who had treated her. He was a man whose presence made her feel seen in a way she had never known before. She still did not know the secret of his fortune or the world he came from. All she knew was that her quiet life had suddenly gained a spark of color. As Adrian left the bookstore he promised to return again. Emma stood behind the counter with trembling hands and a racing heart. For years she had hidden in the shadows of her own timidity, but now the light of something new had begun to shine. She did not understand it fully, yet she sensed her life was about to change. And so the story of a shy girl and a millionaire doctor began, not with wealth or glamour but with an emergency that forced her out of silence and into the presence of a man who would soon mean far more than she could imagine. Emma could hardly believe what had begun to unfold. The shy girl who had once dreaded stepping into a hospital now found herself waiting eagerly for a man she never expected to meet again. Dr. Adrian Blake had kept his word and visited her small bookstore more than once. Each visit felt like a soft breeze breaking through the heavy walls she had built around herself. He asked about her favorite novels and listened as though every word she spoke carried meaning. For the first time Emma felt she was not invisible. Yet she also wrestled with doubt. He was accomplished, confident and so sure of himself. She was quiet, reserved and uncertain of her place in the world. Still he seemed to enjoy her company, and each time he left she replayed their conversations over and over in her mind. One rainy evening Adrian stopped by the bookstore once more. The sound of raindrops tapping the windows filled the space as he entered carrying a warm smile. He asked if Emma had plans after closing, and when she said no he invited her to join him for coffee at a nearby cafe. Her heart skipped as she hesitated. Social situations made her nervous, but the way he looked at her with steady kindness eased her fear. She agreed. The cafe was quiet with soft lights glowing above polished wooden tables. Emma sat across from him clutching her cup of tea while he sipped his coffee. He asked about her childhood, her dreams and her love for books. Slowly she opened up, sharing small pieces of herself she rarely revealed to anyone. She told him she loved writing stories in private journals, though she never showed them to others. Adrian listened intently, his eyes never leaving hers. When he spoke of his own life he kept his words simple. He talked about why he became a doctor and how much he valued helping people. He did not mention the wealth he carried or the luxurious world outside the hospital. He wanted her to know him for his heart first. As the evening stretched on, Emma found herself laughing softly at his stories. She realized she had forgotten the shy girl who always stayed in the shadows. Around him she felt lighter. He walked her home through the rain holding an umbrella above them. At her door he wished her good night with a gentle smile that lingered in her memory long after he left. Days turned into weeks and their connection deepened. Adrian visited often and they explored the city together, visiting parks, art galleries and quiet restaurants where Emma slowly grew more comfortable. She still blushed easily, yet her laughter came more freely now. She began to believe that perhaps she was worthy of being seen. But secrets do not remain hidden forever. One afternoon Emma was closing the bookstore when a wealthy-looking couple entered. They were well-dressed and spoke with familiarity when they asked if she knew Adrian Blake. Emma froze in surprise before answering yes. The couple explained that they were family friends and spoke casually of his successful businesses and vast inheritance. Emma listened in shock. In that moment the truth unfolded before her. Adrian was not only a respected doctor but also a millionaire with influence and power far beyond her world. Her heart trembled. Doubt returned like a storm. Why would a man like him spend time with a quiet girl like her when he could have anyone from the glittering circles of wealth he belonged to? She closed the store and walked home with heavy steps, torn between the warmth of what they shared and the fear of not belonging in his world. That evening Adrian visited her apartment. She greeted him quietly, her mind swirling with uncertainty. He noticed her unease immediately. With patience he asked what troubled her. At first she hesitated, but finally she confessed she had learned of his fortune. She admitted she feared he might only see her as a fragile girl far beneath his world of success. Adrian listened and then took her hand gently. He told her that his wealth had never defined him. He had chosen medicine because healing people mattered more than money. He explained that when he first met her in the emergency room he saw courage hidden beneath her shyness. He valued her honesty, her warmth, and the way she found beauty in simple things. None of that had anything to do with fortune. Emma's eyes filled with tears. She wanted to believe him, yet insecurity clung to her heart. But Adrian's gaze was steady and filled with sincerity. He assured her that what he felt for her was real and not bound by wealth or status. Slowly her fear began to melt. She realized that though their worlds were different, the connection between them was something rare and true. Weeks later, Emma stood once more at the bookstore counter, but this time her life felt different. Adrian entered with the same warm smile, yet his eyes carried something deeper. He walked straight to her and with a quiet certainty asked if she would allow him to be part of her life. Not just as her doctor or her friend, but as the man who had fallen for her. Emma's heart swelled. She thought of the shy girl she once was hiding from the world and of the man who had stepped into her life through an emergency she once feared. She realized that love had found her in the most unexpected place. She said yes, her voice trembling yet strong. Their journey together did not erase her shyness overnight, but it gave her courage she had never known. Adrian continued to show her patience, kindness, and unwavering respect. And though he lived in a world of wealth, he found joy in the quiet bookstore and in the simple moments they shared. Emma no longer saw herself as invisible. She had discovered that even the shyest heart could be worthy of love. And Adrian had found what money could never buy: a genuine connection with a woman who loved him not for his fortune but for the man he truly was. So the story of the shy girl and the millionaire doctor came full circle, beginning in fear inside the sterile walls of an emergency room and ending in the warmth of love that neither of them had expected.